Mabuhay, this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. I'm going to continue talking about love with some writings from gotquestions.org. I think they're a fantastic place to get biblical insight from. And I want to do a whole lot of videos because there's a lot to talk about. Love. When I say love beyond the sea, I take that very seriously. And that kind of love makes for the best marriages. So this video is about what does it mean to not love in words or speech or tongue, but in deed and in truth. This comes from 1 John 3:18 from gotquestions.org, and I try to reply everything I see here in my relationship with God and my wife and others. They say the disciple John here is recognized fondly among Bible readers as the apostle of love, very love beyond the sea approved. He dedicated vast portions of his writing to the theme of Christ-like love. John asserts that believers can understand genuine love by observing Christ's example. By this we know love, that he, Jesus, laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. 1 John 3:16 through 18. I just can't help interjecting here. Excuse me. How important this is to love like this in marriage, because you can tell a woman all kinds of things, but she needs to see it. In fact, if you never told her you loved her, she would know by the things that you do, although you should still tell her, but it has to be backed up and supported with deeds. To love in deed and in truth means to demonstrate the authentic quality of our love with our actions, just as Jesus did. Paul communicated a similar message when he said, live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us, offered himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. That's in Ephesians 5:2. It's not merely enough to say with our words that we love one another. We must show or prove the truth of our love by our deeds. Jesus said, I am giving you a new commandment, love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. John 13:34 and some other places. Paul emphasized the need for us to be genuine with our love. Love must be sincere. Romans 12:9. So don't just say it or say it enough until you start to believe it. It has to be sincere. How did Jesus love us, mankind? Jesus loved us in deed and in truth, even while we were still sinners. Another good point for marriage. Love your wife, even if she's not lovable at that time. Christ died for us, Romans 5:8, as a sacrifice to take away our sin. 1 John 4:10. Jesus loved us like no other, with everything he had, giving up his own life so that we might live. That, my friends, is love. James provides an excellent illustration of insincere, unproven love. Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? James 2:15. We love in word or in talk when we only offer empty phrases and well wishes. We may say to someone in need, I will pray for you, when what he needs to hear is, how can I help you? Real love involves taking steps to meet the needs of others. Now, I'll intrude here and say how that reminds me of the monetary needs that you may find if you marry a Filipina or a woman from a country where there's a lot of poverty. You're going to become involved with that. You can either just reject it outright and say, it's not my problem, too bad. Well, not only does that show a lack of love for her family members, but also your wife. She's in a tough spot. Believe me, your wife doesn't want to spend all your money or even all her money on her family. But she also recognizes that her needs are met well with you in the West, and she doesn't want her family to suffer. And so I think you have to be open to this. Doesn't mean you have to give every last penny, of course, but don't just say, hey, that's your family, they're not my family, they're not my problem. That's a very selfish thing to say. So true Christian love demands more than words. It calls for action. Loving in deed and truth will often cost us something and may even hurt us. Jesus explained to his disciples, if anyone wants to come with me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me will find it. Matthew 16. Following Jesus means pursuing a life of self-sacrifice and servanthood. Great traits for marriage, by the way. Mark 10:45 and others. Now, the last thing I want to touch on here, Jesus said the highest form of love is sacrifice. Sacrifice. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. John 15:13. Rarely as Christians will we be called to lay down our lives literally. But if we're to love in deed and truth, we will have to get up and do something that will require our time, money, or other resources. Sincere love flows from our hearts, not just our mouths. It springs from our hands and feet, not just from our lips. It is a love that gives without counting the cost. Boy, it's getting serious now. You say you love someone, I love you, I love you. Just keep in mind, if it's real love, not just some feeling, it is a love that gives without counting the cost, without any thought of return. That's just so beautiful. It doesn't count the cost, without any thought of return, without first weighing up whether or not such love is deserved. You don't do that. A love that is entirely without self-interest. It's a quote from someone named D. Jackman in the Message of John's Letters, Living in the Love of God. I'll leave it there. That really says it all. That's the highest level of love. When you can love without regard for whether it's deserved, whether you benefit, entirely without self-interest, then you're starting to understand what love is. Stay tuned for more of these videos from GotQuestions.org about love right here on Love Beyond the Sea.